Welcome back, everybody. You know what? Very excited about today. It's been probably about a year that I've but reaching out to processing engineers, chemical engineers, plant managers to tell their story and help a younger version of themselves. And Estelle was one of those people that I targeted right at the beginning because we've had a journey together. We've served on the Chamber of Mines Council together, and I've gotten to know her and respect her professionalism and what she's doing in her business and her side of the world. And Estelle, I'm so excited about today because you are the first plant manager, chemical engineer, processing person that we've got on the Mining Coach podcast. And I just want to wish you good morning. How are you this morning?
Morning, Christo. Thank you for the invite. I'm really happy to be here today.
Yeah, and thanks for saying yes. It's not easy to tell one story and be vulnerable, but you are willing to do that today. And we are very excited to hear your story and talk about exciting stuff. So we are going to talk about excellence that you're quite passionate about. We're going to talk about leadership, teamwork. We're going to talk about sustainability. We'll watch the time and we'll see how deep we go into these conversations as they are quite open-ended. But apart from me introducing you as a chemical engineer, master's in chemical engineering, MBA, plant manager, processing professional, specialist, worked on one of the biggest open cast base metal mines with a massive plant and a electrowinning plant and the likes. Won't you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell our audience who's this woman in mining, Estelle Alberts?
Thank you, Christy. So yes, as you mentioned, chemical engineer. So that is my technical background from which I came. So I'm a Namibian. I grew up in Namibia. As a child, came from the farming environment, and I studied at Stellenbosch. Was very fortunate to be a bursar student of Anglo base metals at the time, and I think that also played a big part in how my career developed from that early age on. As you mentioned, was very fortunate to be working at a base metals mine in the south of Namibia, very small town and a very nice mining community. It was very good to grow in this mining community where you really are taken care of, and then you also learn how to take care of those around you. So I started my career at Scorpion Zinc and very much focused on the technical side, technical development, technical metallurgy. That plant, as you alluded to, is really, it was a very good experience from a technical point of view. You could gain a really wide view on different processes. And then I later moved a bit north in Namibia, worked for Orongo Cement, that has also a strong mining component, but then also more to the manufacturing side. And that has a different perspective that, the customer determines, what you do backwards in the process. And that was a very good learning experience. And where I'm today is with Christo Engineering Solutions. I'm working close with doing some projects in the uranium mining industry. So I'm very excited about the mining industry. Have been all my life, and I really do enjoy working in this industry.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. And we share the passion for the mining community. And as you mentioned, small mining towns, whether those mine sites, it's funny that you don't get these deposits near big cities. You always get them out in the sticks. And then a town develops around that little deposit or that big deposit. But talk to us about this topic of excellence that you are so passionate about. Why did you choose this topic? What's so important to you in this area?
I think for me, so if I start from a personal point of view, excellence means to be the best that you can be and to do the best that you can do. And I think we also know this from a sports kind of view, but in a career or in personal development, I've had this focus for many years. So throughout my career, But the interesting thing with trying to be the best that you can be is that you have a certain goal, you set a certain bar, and the closer you come to that, so initially you have these leaps of, improvement, and then it becomes very small and incremental.
Yeah.
But the closer you come to being the best, you realize, but look, there's more, there's a little bit better. So
Yeah.
so actually that sets you out on a growth path or a development path. It's hard work. It really requires that dedication. And it's good when you look back that you can see that progress. But it's something that I would say, you cannot start today and say, look, I'm going to be excellent, or this is it. It's really that continuous work at it, and it's actually a mindset. So if you work on that, it becomes almost like an attribute. I would say that, really that becomes part of what you do and how you do that. Obviously, that being said, you should make sure that what you are working so hard on, be that on a technical skill level or on a personal development, so something in your personal life or your personal characteristics that you are working on, you should define it that you work on the right things, so that that it works towards the goals that you actually have for yourself. And I think then if you take that a bit further, so if you work in teams, that same approach towards improving yourself, improving the team, but also, if you have certain targets or certain things that you want to achieve as a team, there's that level that is quite good, but it's always important to just say, look, but can you not do that little bit better? And you need somebody that can say, look, just push a little bit more. So I like to be that person. People that work with me would also be able to confirm that. And I think what is really good, if especially in a team context, if you go that extra bit, after a while, that when the team can see what it achieves, there's that certain pride, and it starts to identify the team. So it's no longer a thing of we achieved this thing. It rather becomes that we are the team who can reach that next level. So the team starts to identify themselves with that. And I really enjoy working in such a team environment. It obviously takes a bit of getting there. It's always hard work. I think it's the same like in sport or so. It don't just happen by itself, but it's really good if you can get to that level.
I love what you're saying. And funny enough, I don't think it's coincidence. I was listening to a podcast this morning while I was on my morning run, and it was all about, the top 10 things that successful people do. And it's very much aligned to what you're saying, that is there a goal, is there a bar that you've set to go after? And then, are you willing to put in the work, put in the detail, doing the grind? And that's the other successful tip, that or one of the things that successful people do. They're willing to do the grind. They're willing to do that effort. And the other one, funny enough, that you mentioned, not funny enough, but the fact that you're mentioning it is working with people. You cannot achieve these things on your own. It's no use. You just go out on your own. And how difficult is the teamwork side of things? I mean, what do you do if people are not aligned on the goal and they say, no, but this cannot be achieved?
Yeah, that is always a challenge, right? Yeah, so I think that is a big part, and there I would say it depends slightly on the context. But if you are in a leadership position and you reach that kind of resistance, then I really think you need to find the way to inspire people, to find small wins that you can say, look, but see, you thought this small change was not possible, but there you could do it.
Yes.
And then use that to encourage them to go to the bigger item. For me personally, it's not always practical. I mean, the bigger an organization becomes, the more difficult it becomes. But I always depart from the point that you yourself need to be willing to go that route. So I can never expect, if I'm not willing to walk in someone's boots, if I'm not willing to do the hard work, I should really not expect somebody else to do that. And I do find that, if you're really willing to take that first step, and continue, that people tend to follow. So it's kind of, they will follow, and then with time they might exceed you and start to push you, and then you got the team going there. So definitely that momentum, or getting in motion is the very difficult part, and it requires persistence, I think. But I think the more persistence it required and the harder the work was, once you get it moving, it really then creates even more of that, stronger team effort. So it's worth the effort.
Absolutely.
And,
sorry, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe just to confirm what you also said earlier, it's really important that that we can work together. So you need in your team different people at different times that has that push effect. The ones that really can see what the possibility would be, or where we want to go, why we need to go there, to really keep that momentum. So in as important as it is to grow, you also need to make sure that you don't regress, that you don't lose what you've already built. So that is where you need enough drive for that. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, it's no use you give up halfway, and you've pushed this flywheel up the mountain. You're just about to turn the corner, and you give up. I love that.
Exactly.
And you come from an industry that is male dominant. And I did prepare you for this one. And how difficult is it to be a woman in processing, woman in the plant manager, and in this male dominant world? How difficult was it for you? Yeah, let's start there.
So, Christo, in my experience, it has actually been a very good journey to be a woman in a male-dominated industry. I must say, from when I started, even as a student working vacations on the mine, I'm really thankful, and I can give a big shout out to all the men who have supported me throughout my career.
Wow.
The mentors that I've had, the managers that I've had, I can really say that it has been a good path, and I'm thankful for that.
Wow.
In addition to those that I would say that supported me from a more senior level than myself, I'm also very appreciative of the teams that I had. So as you know, also in the industry, the majority of the workforce is actually male. And it was really good that I really had a positive experience, that as a leader in that industry, that the teams were really responsive, and I had a good experience. Something that I really appreciate from this predominantly male environment is that you can often work in less complexity, I think, than if you really would have a more predominantly female environment. And in the mining environment, where it's often very task focused, it's very target driven, it's also very technical. I find that a very no nonsense approach, and actually, yeah, really enjoy working in that way. So from my side, it has been positive.
That's really, really good. And I must tell you, we don't hear that often. And it's a breath of fresh air this morning, just for me to listen to that and say, you know what, there are men out there that have really, call it, pioneered the way for women to be successful and be enabled and be supported in this very male dominant world. That's really fantastic. But it's not always that easy from a woman perspective. So were there times that you encountered issues that you can advise a younger version of yourself to say, this is what I've learned in this male dominant world. I love the no nonsense approach. That's a good learning. Try and fit into that, because it is quite simple. It is quite straightforward. There's no beating around the bush. But what would you advise somebody in filling those younger boots?
I think something that I would advise a younger version of myself is really to be aware of perceptions, or how you are perceived, because that is quite important, and you need to be willing to adapt. And I will explain, at the risk of being a bit too practical, but let me perhaps give a practical example, then it's easier to understand.
Mining
So
is practical.
yeah, if we take the mining environment, we have a lot of situations where you would be in a group. You would have a meeting, a larger kind of meeting, sometimes meetings outside in the mine or in the plant, and you have, for example, a safety talk at the start of the morning. And as a woman, your natural tendency would be to speak softly, or sometimes to speak in a very high pitch. Even after many years working in my career, I still have to focus on it. So that is your natural way of speaking, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are in that environment and you would speak softly, literally people will not hear you. And the message that you try to bring across, they will either get halfway or not properly. They may not respond properly to what you request, and some of the communication will get lost. And in a quite a worst case scenario, they would even perceive you to be not very confident. So if you are in that environment or that situation, it's very important that you must really speak up, speak loudly, and project your voice. And then they can hear you and they can respond very well to your message. And it's really simple to do. And that's what I mean by you must be willing to adapt. It's not difficult to do. But the very important part is you must realize how you are perceived. So that's the part that sometimes you don't actually realize, because, in your natural way is not to speak very loudly and project very clearly. But once you're aware of that, it's something that you can very easily do, and it makes it just makes it easier for working together. So I think that would be something as a practical advice that I would give to younger women, or any women actually working in this kind of industry. And then for me personally, something that makes it why I joined this industry, which you can hopefully also hear from my voice this morning, but I really enjoy the kind of work. So I also, enjoy putting on an overall and getting into the plant. I like the technical challenge of it. I like working with the people. So that part is a passion for me. And then, you need to just work on at it. So there's a book that I've read quite a bit later in my career, but for young women, I would really recommend. There's a book, Grit, Passion and Perseverance, by Angela Duckworth, which I think gives really a good picture of what it takes to continue. And it starts off with having that passion. So if you have the passion, the perseverance part is something you can work on. If you don't really have the aptitude or the liking for the industry, then I think it will be very challenging. And something that is important for me especially is also to maintain the overview. So often when we work on mines, you are somewhere there, as we mentioned, on a remote site, in a kind of faraway place. And the product that you see at the end of the mine is a truck that enters a long road going somewhere. So what you are doing, you actually never see what it gets used for. So when I was working for the zinc mine, you know very well, you produce zinc in an ingot form, and it leaves by truck. But you don't realize where that zinc goes, because it's shipped off, it's sold on the international market. But in what you do, you really have a contribution to what happens in the world. Zinc is used in multiple industries. It's used for corrosion protection. That has a long way that it goes towards sustainability and how long you can use material. But you're just working there somewhere on a site, you wouldn't necessarily see that.
Yes.
And I think that is a part of the industry where when you can see that bigger picture, it really, makes you also understand your role in achieving that bigger purpose. So for every one of the mines and every one of the minerals that's mined, you can really get that story that, makes it worthwhile being there somewhere on some side, trying to get something working and keeping it working.
Yeah. I've never had this on the podcast. So, so this is like magic to me. Just the two things that stand out. Never heard projecting your voice, and be aware of how your voice may not actually carry through to the people while you're talking to them. And it's got nothing to do with just being overzealous, but it's just the way it is for women. Profound. Thank you for that. I've learned so much in that one. We spoke earlier about our voice and how important communication is. And I remember when I started first recording my own voice, and listening how boring it is. And I realized I need to change this. And the fact that you said, be aware, be self-aware of your voice and how it carries. And in a male-dominant world where a lot of people have noise-induced hearing loss, so number one, they can't hear properly, and number two, you're a woman. So there's magic in that one. And I love the fact that you bring context to just understand your role and your contribution in this bigger picture, and just gives you a lot more purpose. Thank you so much for that. Wow. That's amazing. Talk to me about the lowlights. We all go through difficult times, and in the mining industry, there's always it's very cyclical, and then the prices are down, and costs must be preserved, or or things are going well or not so well, or it's this or the other, or somebody gets hurt or under your care. How do you deal with those lowlights, and are there lowlights that stand out for you? But also, just how did you get through those difficult periods?
I think, yeah. So you mentioned now slightly, or let me rather, mention in detail for I think everybody's aware, but in the mining industry, also tying a bit up to the excellence that I spoke earlier about, there is something that all of us, irrespective, which part of the mining industry you are in, you focus on, and that is safety. So it is the one focus area that we all have in common, that we hold above all else, that we really put the most focus on a day-to-day basis in. And in my experience in the mining industry, and also where I have been in leadership roles, you really have that very utmost high bar and desire that every person that walks through a gate in the morning, that enters a mining site, should leave at the end of their workday in that same healthy condition. So it's really hard work. It is an environment with multiple risks, and you need to focus on it every day, all day. And it is something that in my working career, we've had experiences where safety incidents happen, and some really severe safety incidents. And that was very difficult. It's really something that it reaches on a personal level. In my career, it has made me question a lot about my leadership style, about systems, about procedures, about how you do things, about communication, everything. So it has been in more than one instance quite what I would describe as a low light in my career. And it's something that I really must say today, I'm very thankful for the team that I've had under those conditions. I really had a committed team, people that you could rely on. So those were the ones working with me, who had, let's say, the closest similar experience. And I must also say, in the industry, I found a lot of support, a lot of sharing of advice, and just saying, look, we've been through this. This was our experience, and this is our advice. And as a mining community, I really valued it at that time, and I think it's what got me through that part in my career. And I think, yeah, the focus will always be there after that and until today. And I think for the rest of our mining lives, safety and working in a safe as possible environment will remain the highest priority always.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's not easy to share these moments. I've had similar incidents that shaped my career, and really had to question myself about where's my integrity. Am I leading by example? Am I really caring for people? Is that at one stage, as you say, you really look at things and through a different light. And thanks for sharing that. But you also talk about that shaping you, and is that something that you would talk to a younger version of yourself, saying, despite this difficult circumstance, it's an opportunity to grow and become a better person? Would that be something that you've also experienced?
I think definitely it has been a valuable growth experience. I don't know if I would call it a good experience. I don't think so, but you do definitely grow, and it has influenced or impacted me personally in multiple ways, which I think one is at the end of the day better off for that. And also in terms of the contribution that you can give going forward. So I mean, should you be in similar or other roles, you can really work from that experience. You can see some of the risks, for example, or anything that may contribute to similar situations. You are much more in tune with, and it's I think that value add is definitely there. So from that point of view, I would definitely say it was a growth opportunity that was not asked for, but the opportunity was used.
Thanks for that. Apart from safety, any other, call it, top learnings in your career with failures or things that didn't go as planned, and how did that change you or shape your thinking?
When I was still very early in my career, we did a 360-degree assessment. So I think those are also quite common in the industry, and people know more or less how it works. And with this particular assessment, there was also the opportunity that those people that rate or provide ratings, they could provide comments. So it's not only about rating a percentage based on how they perceive performance or any other of the criteria, but they could really give a comment. And I had the experience that one of my peers really then took time to put some proper comments on their rating. And we had a facilitator that then discussed the results. So somebody who was independent of the participants of this 360-degree. And I still recall this was now quite a lot of years ago, but I was not very happy with those comments. So I told the facilitator, look, I really don't agree with these comments. And he told me, look, well, this is the comments that person has made, which is not for you to say if you agree or don't agree. That is what they see and what they perceive. Yeah. And it bothered me a bit, and really was quite a turning point in my career, I would say, and fortunately also very early on, that I realized that what I am and what I think about myself and how people perceive that is not necessarily aligned, and that you should really make sure that you are perceived in the way that you think you are. So you should try to you'll never get that gap perfectly closed, but it is something that you must practically work on, and really identify the reasons why there could be discrepancies. So the specific comments that peer made was very valuable actually to me, because I could identify exactly where it came from, and I could work on those, because it's something that you don't often intend to be perceived in a certain way, but once you are aware of that, you can work on that. So I had a lot of damage control to do back then, but that really helped me further in my career to understand that, the perception is very important, and your communication. So, if somebody just sees your face and hears some words, they don't know what you are thinking. So you need to deliberately explain to them what you are thinking or what your intention is behind what you are doing. Otherwise, they will not know that. So I would say that was something that, I'm thankful for now, but that was also at that point in time very useful to know.
It's brutal. You say you're putting it quite eloquently, but it is brutal, and I can just attest to the same thing. We once went through a team building session, and similar, we asked each other very, very directly about telling us about our blind spots, and some 3 or 4 of my blind spots was like a common theme from my whole team, and I really had to reflect deeply about why do they perceive it? And in all of those cases, they were actually not just a perception. They were real. They were real blind spots on my end that I had to go and shape and do differently going forward. So thank you for that. It talks about leadership, which is a topic that you are very passionate about, and you've touched on quite a number of leadership issues. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk to us today about on the leadership front?
I would just tie up again to the excellence part. So the leadership role that I think is important, and in my working life, I've worked towards that, and I cannot say now that I have all the answers, but that way of trying to connect, the part that the leader sees, where we want to go, if it's the vision, or if it's even in a nearby strategy, to those people that must do or execute that. So to link these two parts is in my experience quite difficult, and there's quite a disconnect sometimes. And I've asked myself a lot of times, how do you connect that? So if you look on the more technical side, it's easier that you can really, if you understand the details of what needs to be technically done. So if you look on the engineering disciplines, then you can use that to explain to somebody how they must achieve the ultimate objective. So you can really take them through that path or that storyline. And in terms of the performance of teams and an organization, it's a bit more difficult. I really find that often if you're in a leadership role, you are very isolated from the people that you actually want to be so connected to, but it's very difficult to achieve. And I think it helps if you really, lead by example. So never expect of people things that you're not willing to do yourself. But then, that you also try to take them along on that journey. So that I think is important. And from my point of view, so if I must now speak to leaders with whom I've worked, it was really helpful where they could create that purpose, that direction for where we are going. And we read it a lot in a lot of different books, a lot of podcasts, people refer to that. But on a practical side, as a leader, you really need to focus on getting that purpose to your people, and also how it applies to them personally. So I could, from when I was working for the cement company, I was always, very proud about the projects that was built in Namibia, and not even all of them in Namibia, sometimes outside, where you could really, explain to somebody that what you physically see there, that construction that will stand there for 60 or 100 years, that was, possible because of what you did here, which seems far connected from that. But you don't always have, for all contexts, that opportunity to explain it in that way. But I think it remains a practical challenge how to get it done in a way where people can really make it something that they themselves find as their purpose.
Yeah, buying into that vision, but also being very highly connected to them in their personal lives. Yeah, I love that. Sure. Yeah, it's a leadership challenge. I think we're grappling with that all along, and we will continue doing that. And you spoke about teamwork as well, that you're quite passionate about. You've given us quite a number of examples there. Anything else that you still want to mention about teamwork before we move on to sustainability?
I think I have spoken a lot about teamwork, so not much more to add on that. Perhaps there is still scope in the mining community in a broader context that we can work also, across the different mining sectors together. There are aspects, I think, with the global challenges that we have. So especially if we look at the environmental side, if we look at the safety and the health side, if we look at the way how we operate in society, there are things that we can also on that scale work together as teams. Yeah. So that is not as close and as tight as in one organization. So it's quite a different challenge. It's a different way of thinking. But I think it's also a good challenge that we have ahead of us in the industry.
I love that. Actually, when you mentioned teamwork, I was just thinking leadership in that team, and you mentioned the fact that we are, global teams working together to solve a global problem in many cases. So thanks for that. That's really profound. Finally, sustainability. Talk to us, Estelle, about that. Why the passion? Where does this come from? What's burning?
Yeah, so sustainability, I think, is also one of those concepts that are used for different things these days. So it's a very popular concept, and often used, around let's say, the environmental theme, where it definitely has a good place. So for me personally, maybe just to start from the departure point is that I see in sustainability that you have to be able to continue what you are doing. So it's looking, at what you are doing in a longer term view. And a lot of my thinking around it has also changed or was influenced by the book from Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. Because in business and in mining and in our careers, it's what we achieve, and we talk now a lot about excellence, but really the most critical factor is if you can continue to do that. So not only having one success or one achievement, but if you can really over the longer term continue to do that. So if as an industry we remain relevant, as an individual, if you can manage to really continue your career. So I think, as you also often refer, perhaps previously it was a very short career. People work towards an early retirement age, whereas you really have to think a bit more long term. And the same applies then when we look at, how we extract minerals, how our impact is on the environment, how our impact on people. When we look at the topic of health in mining, it's a similar thing. It's not only about short-term impacts, but looking at the longer term. And on a personal level, I really think it takes a view that you need to think about. So whatever you are busy with and what you are working on, you should ask yourself the question, if this is sustainable for the longer term, and where it will end up. And in all of our activities, I think you need to really be conscious of that. So there's a certain impact if you do something for a day or 2 days, but you need to understand, if you continue doing that infinitely, will it continue, or will it just somewhere reach an end? It's, again, something that's very easy to talk about and not so easy to do in practice. But I think it's, again, about a mindset. So we very easily get focused on the small wins, and if you go to the opposite side of achieving and winning and success, then it's about the more negative impacts, and small negative impacts are often left unnoticed. But you have to understand, how that will accumulate over time. And I really think, and as a technically qualified person, I know this is a challenging statement to make, but I think also in mining companies, we have processes that has impacts on the environment and the communities where we operate. But in those areas, I also think that if you really focus on it, you can minimize those impacts, and you can find ways to do it better than how it was done historically or going forward. And many mining companies really practically achieve that. It takes a lot of investment. It takes really a lot of courage. And I think we should also, amongst each other, support these efforts. So if you are in the mining community and you understand what effort is going towards that, to also celebrate that, make sure that message goes out to the rest of society, because people, especially from the mining, let's say, investment side, are doing a lot. We just need to focus on that.
Wow.
Sorry, that was a very long answer.
I love it. That was a wonderful answer. Thank you. It's it's very disruptive thinking, and I appreciate the fact that you are sharing that, because it is what we're busy with in mining. We do add value to the global community, but how long can it carry on, and is it sustainable, and how what's the infinite result of what we're doing? I love your thinking. Thank you for that. Estelle, any last thoughts? I think we are heading towards the call it the 45-minute mark, and we try and keep it under 50 for our guests. Any final remarks or words of wisdom from your end today?
I think the more you want to gain wisdom, you realize how little you have. So for me, I really appreciate your podcast. I appreciate the opportunity to learn from others. And I really enjoy that people are willing to share their experiences. And you don't necessarily learn a lot from someone's experience, but there's always some part that is relevant, that is good. And I think if I can have a wish for especially younger versions of myself, it would be that you shouldn't wait too late to start learning, and you will never know all the answers. So it's a lifelong process.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That's from Estelle Alberts. Estelle, thank you so much for doing this today. You've been an absolute star. I don't know why you were worried or nervous about this. You have been a natural communicator, and we love the value add that you did today to the mining community. We wish you all the best. Hope to have you back soon. I'm sure you're going to be back and share more of your wisdom. Thank you very much. And for those of us that are still listening, please don't go away. We're going to have a wrap up just now. Estelle, thank you very much. It's been such an honor, such a privilege having you.
Thank you, Christo. Have a good day.
Well, there we go. What an incredible podcast with Estelle today. I'm going to summarize just my learnings, and you have different learnings, but my take home for today that stood out for me. Number one, teamwork across mine sites, across the industry, can absolutely change our long-term future. Number 2, excellence takes effort, but the rewards are more than you anticipated. Number 3, make sure your voice carries properly when communicating to people. And finally, number 4, keep growing and learning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers.